I matched with a stranger on Tinder and 4 years later, I made him homeless. Loneliness is a strange hunger. It's quiet, persistent, and it whispers the cruelest things in your weakest moments, like maybe this time will be different. That was me in 2019. I was 26, tired, and desperately craving connection. My childhood was a wasteland of emotional distance. My parents were like ghosts who paid the bills and slept in the same house, but nothing more. I had no real friends. Just a string of broken relationships that felt more like temporary shelters than anything resembling love. So I turned to Tinder. Again. I didn't expect fireworks. Just maybe a conversation. A laugh. A little kindness. But instead, I matched with Tom. He wasn't stunning, not conventionally handsome, but his bio? It felt familiar. We liked the same books, hated the same politicians, made the same dumb jokes. That was rare. In a sea of shirtless selfies and gym bro one-liners, Tom felt human. We started chatting. No creepy pickup lines, no pressure. Just talk. I remember thinking, this might be something. Then he asked to meet the next day. It was fast, sure. But I was lonely. And he seemed sincere. So I agreed. We met near my house. My parents were away for the weekend, so we talked in my room, just the two of us. It felt oddly easy. Until it didn't. I won't dance around it. He pressured me into sleeping with him that day. I didn't scream no, but I didn't say yes either. Afterward, he said I love you. It should have sent alarm bells screaming. But instead, I just sat there in silence, trying to figure out how someone could jump from hello to I love you so fast. But I convinced myself it meant he really liked me. That I was finally enough for someone. That's how it started. Over the next few weeks, we kept seeing each other. Then one night, he showed up at my door, bags in hand. He said he'd been kicked out by his parents. He had nowhere to go. My parents, reluctant but soft-hearted, let him move in. And so began my slow unraveling. Tom's true colors didn't bleed out all at once, they leaked slowly. He made messes and left them for me to clean. He started snapping at me when I was too quiet. He'd sulk if I didn't cook exactly what he wanted or if I wanted to spend time alone. But he always knew how to pull me back in. He'd say, "You are the only one who gets me," or worse, "You are all I have." He began using his disability, not as something to manage, but as a weapon. Any time I brought up the way he treated me, he'd guilt me. Remind me how hard life was for him. Remind me how much he needed me. Eventually, my parents started to see what he was doing too. But by then, the damage was done. I had changed. I was quieter, colder. And worse, I had become isolated from them. Then came the breaking point. Tom lost his temper and destroyed part of my parents' bedroom. That was it. We were both kicked out. And I went with him. We landed at his grandparents' house. It was supposed to be temporary while we waited for council housing. But it was worse than anything I imagined. He controlled everything. My phone. My money. My time. He wouldn't let me get a full-time job. He took my benefit payments. Checked my texts. Told me if I left, I'd be homeless and lucky if I kept my phone. And during all this? He treated me like a servant. I cooked, cleaned, cared for him, and managed his prescriptions, all while he lay in bed, strung out on painkillers, playing video games. I lost track of who I was. In those moments of desperation, I did things I'm not proud of. I cheated. Not because I didn't feel guilt, but because it was the only tiny act of rebellion I could find. Someone else, anyone else, made me feel human again. But escape still felt impossible. Until he made a mistake. When we finally moved into our own council house, Tom thought he had won. He thought his power over me was complete. What he didn't realize was that every account, Wi-Fi, tenancy, streaming services, was in my name. That meant one thing. I had leveraged. I started rebuilding my relationship with my parents. Slowly. Carefully. I also started messaging someone else, someone kind, someone who treated me like a person, not a puppet. His name was Sam, and he reminded me that life outside of survival still existed. With Sam's encouragement and my parents' support, I built a plan. One afternoon, while Tom and I were visiting some of his extended family, I told him I needed to run an errand. He grumbled, but let me go. He didn't know that, a block away, my dad was waiting with the car running. We drove straight to the council house. I had 10 minutes to grab everything I owned. We loaded my bags into the car. I took one last look around, then dropped the keys through the letterbox. On the way back to my parents' house, I changed every password: Netflix, Spotify, Wi-Fi. I canceled the joint benefits account and opened one in my name only. Then, I wrote him a text. I'm done. I've left. Don't contact me again. The next day, I called the council and officially ended the tenancy. Now, here's the kicker: when you cancel a joint tenancy, everyone on the lease has to vacate the property. Yep. I made him legally homeless. No more rent-free video games. No more painkiller haze. No more using me. He didn't take it well. He flooded my inbox with the ugliest, cruelest messages you could imagine. Threats. Blame. Guilt. He stalked me on social media. Created fake accounts. I kept the screenshots. Went straight to the police. They paid him a visit. After that, the noise stopped. Completely. It's 2025 now. I'm still with Sam. I have a healthy relationship with my parents again. I sleep without fear. I laugh more easily. I've started applying for jobs I never thought I was good enough for. Tom? I have no idea where he is. And I don't care. I blocked every number. Every email. Every reminder of the person who tried to break me. It didn't hit me right away. Not the silence. Not the freedom. Not the fact that I had finally done it, escaped. No. What hit me was the absence. The absence of noise. Of fear. Of him. I sat on the edge of my childhood bed that night, in the room I thought I'd never see again. The same walls that had watched me fall apart now held me like a bandage. I stared at my phone. No threats. No guilt trips. No demands for money or food or attention. Just quiet. And for the first time in years, I slept. It wasn't as simple as leaving and feeling whole again. My body had been conditioned to chaos. Peace made me flinch. Silence made me think something was wrong. The first time Sam put a hand on my shoulder, I panicked. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't grab. He just touched me, gently, lovingly, and I jumped. That night, I cried in the bathroom. Not because I was scared of Sam, but because I realized just how broken I still was. He waited outside the door. Didn't rush me. Didn't ask me to be okay. Just waited. And slowly. That became enough. It started with small things. Buying myself new socks. Getting my own Netflix account, one where the only profile was mine. Rewatching the shows Tom said were a waste of time. Eating dessert before dinner just because I could. Freedom, it turns out, lives in the smallest choices. I stopped apologizing for existing. I stopped looking over my shoulder. I started listening to music out loud again. I started laughing without covering my mouth. I started being. And now? I'm rebuilding what he tried to destroy. People say healing isn't linear. They say it comes in waves, highs of progress and lows of memories that sneak up on you. They're right. Because even after I left Tom, even after the Wi-Fi was cut, the benefits reclaimed, the tenancy ended, and silence reclaimed my life, he was still in my head. Not his voice. Not his threats. But his lies. You were nothing without me. No one else would ever want you. You were lucky I even stay. Those phrases stuck like splinters. Not because they were true, but because I believed them for so long that I carved them into my identity. The biggest battle wasn't leaving. It was unlearning. Sam wasn't just a rebound. He was patient. Careful. He never tried to fix me. He just stood beside me and let me fix myself. At first, I flinched when he raised his voice, even in laughter. I kept asking for permission to spend money, to leave the house, to be alone. Sam never scolded me. He just reminded me, gently, that I was allowed to exist without asking for space. It was the strangest feeling. I didn't need to survive anymore. I could simply live. 6 months after I left Tom, I applied for a job I never thought I'd get, a youth support worker for young women escaping abusive relationships. In the interview, they asked me why I wanted the job. I told them the truth. Because I know how it feels to think no one's coming to save you. I want to be the voice that says, you can save yourself. They hired me on the spot. Some nights, when the world gets quiet and I stare at the ceiling too long, I imagine what I'd say to Tom now. Not out of anger. But to show him what he never managed to destroy. If I could send him a letter, it would read something like this: you once told me I'd be nothing without you. That no one would love me. That I was weak. You were wrong. I'm not nothing. I'm free. I'm not unloved. I'm deeply cared for, by people who never made me bleed just to prove they cared. I'm not weak. I survived you. And surviving you is the hardest thing I've ever done. But now? Now I help others do it too. I used to think you broke me. But now I know, you didn't break me. You woke me up. And I'll never forget that. Not because I still care about you. But because you're the proof that I'll never go back to who I used to be. Goodbye. Forever. It didn't hit me right away. Not the silence. Not the freedom. Not the fact that I had finally done it, escaped. No. What hit me was the absence. The absence of noise. Of fear. Of him. I sat on the edge of my childhood bed that night, in the room I thought I'd never see again. The same walls that had watched me fall apart now held me like a bandage. I stared at my phone. No threats. No guilt trips. No demands for money or food or attention. Just quiet. And for the first time in years, I slept. It wasn't as simple as leaving and feeling whole again. My body had been conditioned to chaos. Peace made me flinch. Silence made me think something was wrong. The first time Sam put a hand on my shoulder, I panicked. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't grab. He just touched me, gently, lovingly, and I jumped. That night, I cried in the bathroom. Not because I was scared of Sam, but because I realized just how broken I still was. He waited outside the door. Didn't rush me. Didn't ask me to be okay. Just waited. And slowly. That became enough. It started with small things. Buying myself new socks. Getting my own Netflix account, one where the only profile was mine. Rewatching the shows Tom said were a waste of time. Eating dessert before dinner just because I could. Freedom, it turns out, lives in the smallest choices. I stopped apologizing for existing. I stopped looking over my shoulder. I started listening to music out loud again. I started laughing without covering my mouth. I started being. 3 months after I left, I got an email from a name I hadn't seen in years, Tom's mother. It simply read, "I don't know exactly what happened. But I'm sorry for our part in it. I hope you're safe." No follow-up. No expectations. Just that. I cried harder than I had in months. Not because I forgave Tom. But because someone, even for a moment, acknowledged what happened to me. Abuse is often invisible. And when someone finally sees you, really sees you, it's like being handed oxygen. Eventually, I joined an online support group for women who left emotionally abusive partners. I didn't talk at first. Just read. But one day, someone posted. He told me I was too broken to ever be loved again. Is that true? Without thinking, I typed. He told me the same thing. He was wrong. The post exploded with likes, comments, DMs. That's when I realized, my story wasn't just trauma. It was proof. Proof that survival is messy. That healing isn't linear. That leaving doesn't make you weak, it makes you braver than anyone can imagine. One morning, 6 months after leaving, I walked past a store window. I saw myself, shoulders upright, eyes forward, no shame in my stride. And I didn't look away. I used to avoid mirrors because all I saw was the version of me he had shaped, the one who whispered, tiptoed, bent herself backwards to keep peace. But now? Now I saw her. The girl who fought for herself. The woman who made him homeless with a single counsel form. The survivor who didn't just leave. She rose. If you're still in it, still lost, still trying to make sense of the manipulation, the name-calling, the gaslighting, the slow death of your self-worth, please hear me. You are not dramatic. You are not broken. You are not unlovable. You are not too late. You're not too used, or too old, or too far in. You are worthy. And you are stronger than you think. The scariest part isn't leaving. The scariest part is believing you deserve better. But once you do, everything changes. Freedom didn't come with fireworks. It came with groceries. I remember the first time I walked into a store alone, without asking for permission. No text updates. No phone checks. I was standing in the fruit aisle when it hit me, I was no longer anyone's prisoner. I picked up a carton of strawberries, something Tom used to call too expensive for people like us. That day, I bought 2. I came home, washed them, and ate them straight from the bowl with my fingers. Juice dripped down my chin and I laughed out loud, because it tasted like rebellion. People always talk about closure like it's a door someone else has to shut for you. But real closure? It's internal. It's quiet. It's not a grand confrontation, it's a whispered promise to yourself, I will never go back. Tom never apologized. Not for trapping me. Not for scaring me. Not for stealing years of my life and shoving them into a black hole of manipulation. But I didn't need him to. Because I forgave myself. For staying too long. For trusting too much. For silencing my screams just to keep someone else's ego intact. And once I did that, the healing stopped feeling like survival and started feeling like rebirth. A year after I left, I received an anonymous message from someone who knew Tom. They said he'd been couch surfing, blaming the world for his situation, still addicted to the same excuses. Part of me felt pity. But only briefly. Because here's the truth. I didn't ruin his life. He did. I simply stopped carrying the weight of his consequences. And when I ended that council tenancy, when I cut the Wi-Fi, when I stopped answering messages and stood on my own 2 feet, that was the moment power changed hands. And I never gave it back. Being with Sam now is like learning how to breathe again. He never shouts. Never guilt trips. Never treats kindness like a currency I have to earn. We have our arguments, because we're human. But there's no fear behind them. No walking on eggshells. No icy stares or slamming doors. And when I say no to something, he respects it. No manipulation. No punishment. No withdrawal of affection. Just respect. And sometimes, that's the most romantic thing in the world. I wrote this on the 2nd anniversary of my escape. I keep it in my journal and reread it whenever I feel like slipping into old habits of self-doubt. I know you're scared. I know you think this is the best you'll ever get. I know you're tired. Tired of fighting, of apologizing, of shrinking to make space for someone else's brokenness. But I promise you, there's more. There's a world outside the walls he built around you. There's laughter that doesn't come with consequences. There's love that doesn't feel like a leash. And one day, you'll leave. You'll run. You'll rebuild. And you won't recognize yourself, in the best way possible. So hold on. The storm doesn't last forever. Love. I don't share this for revenge. I don't need that. I share it for the girl somewhere out there, holding her phone in the dark, wondering if she's crazy, wondering if she's weak, wondering if she deserves this. You're not. You're not. You don't. If you're reading this, wondering if it's bad enough to leave, let me tell you something. If you have to ask that question, it is. And if you think you can't make it out, remember this. I thought I couldn't either. And here I am, strawberries, silence, and all. I live in a small house by a quiet park now. There's nothing extravagant about it, just a cozy porch, fresh flowers in the windows, and laughter that doesn't come with strings attached. Sam and I adopted a rescue dog last year. Her name is Junie. She was skittish at first, just like I was. But she warmed up slowly. Learned how to trust. Learned how to play. Funny, how healing looks the same in all creatures, 2-legged or 4. I didn't just get a job. I built a career out of the ashes of my pain. Now, I work with women who are where I once was. I help them find housing, file reports, rebuild credit, understand red flags, and rediscover their voices. I teach workshops on emotional abuse, digital independence, and coercive control, things I wish someone had taught me when I was 21 and dating with hope and no armor. Every time a woman tells me, I thought I was alone, I look her in the eye and say, you are not. And you never were. People ask that sometimes. The truth is, I don't know. And I don't care. Last I heard, he was living on someone's couch, still playing the victim, still blaming everyone else. But that's not my story anymore. That's just background noise. I turned the volume all the way down. Sam and I aren't perfect. No one is. But our arguments end with hugs, not silence. Our nights end in safety, not fear. There's no scoreboard. No you owe me. Just partnership. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, my chest tight from dreams that take me back. But Sam never questions it. He just holds me and says, you are safe. I've got you. And he does. But more importantly, I've got myself. If I could stand in front of the 26-year-old me, the one who whispered apologies for taking up space, I'd hold her face in my hands and say, "You are not hard to love. You were just taught to love the wrong way. And you survived what was designed to break you. Look at you now. You didn't just leave. You became someone else entirely. Someone unstoppable. You don't owe your pain a home. You don't owe your abuser silence. You don't owe anyone the pieces of yourself they shattered. You are allowed to get angry. You are allowed to be loud. You are allowed to want more. And most of all, you are allowed to leave. Even if you don't know where you're going yet. Even if you're scared. Even if you've stayed too long. Because freedom doesn't require certainty. It only requires a first step. It happened on a Tuesday. I was sitting on my new balcony, legs crossed under me, sipping coffee I made just the way I like it, sweet, strong, and unapologetically mine. There was no screaming in the background. No orders being barked from a dark room. No anxiety in my chest about what kind of day I was about to have. The only sound was the wind. That's when I realized, I'd made it. I wasn't just free. I was peaceful. There's a version of me that still exists in memory, the girl who walked on eggshells, who begged for quiet, who covered bruises with foundation and excuses. I used to resent her. Now? I thank her. Because she was the one who endured. Who stayed strong long enough for me to escape. She wasn't weak, she was strategic. She played small so one day, I could take up space again. She's why I'm here. Not long after I left Tom, he tried contacting me, emails filled with venom, threats, insults, and manipulation. The usual pattern. But I didn't respond. Instead, I walked into the police station with screenshots, records, and years of truth. I sat in that cold room, hands trembling, voice dry, but I spoke. For every time I stayed silent. For every time he made me feel like the villain in my own life. The officer looked me in the eye and said, "We'll handle this." And they did. After that, the emails stopped. The shadows faded. And I finally got my last word, through action, not argument. I live with my new partner now, Sam. Our home isn't huge or luxurious, but it's everything the last one wasn't. It's safe. It's warm. It's filled with laughter that doesn't cut, silence that isn't threatening, and a love that never asks me to earn it. We argue, yes, we're human. But no one storms off. No one twists words. No one weaponizes love. I am not a maid. Not a caretaker. Not an emotional punching bag. I'm a partner. A few months after moving in, I started volunteering at a women's shelter. What began as a way to give back quickly became something deeper. I found purpose. I spoke on panels. I created workshops. I even helped draft a guide for identifying early-stage coercive control, because I wished someone had handed it to me when I was 22 and still full of hope. One woman pulled me aside after a session and whispered, "I thought I was crazy. You made me feel sane again." I'll never forget that. If you're reading this and your story feels too familiar, if your hands shake when your phone buzzes, if you avoid mirrors because you don't recognize yourself anymore, this part is for you. You are not dramatic. You are not imagining it. You are not too far gone. You are not the problem. You are the solution. You have more strength than you know. And when you finally leave, because yes, you will find the version of yourself that you lost. She's waiting for you. With open arms. And maybe. With strawberries and quiet coffee on a Tuesday. I didn't break him. I just walked away and let his consequences catch up. That's the thing about men like him, they rely on your silence, your loyalty, your fear. But when you choose yourself, they lose everything. And you? You finally get it all back. He said no one would love me. But I learned to love myself. He said I was weak. But I did the strongest thing imaginable, I left. He thought he'd written the ending to my story. But I picked up the pen. And I wrote this. You were a chapter. Not the whole book. And the rest of it? Is beautiful. The end. And the beginning.